Hi everyone, I'm Rincey and this is Rincey Reads. Today I'm going to be doing a quarter two check-in or halfway point check-in for the year, looking at my reading stats as well as my reading goals for the year. The way that I sort of set up my goals, reading goals, is I do basically quarterly goals at this point because I found that that is significantly more successful for me. I might have like annual goals, but I kind of break them up into quarters so I can be realistic about what I could potentially achieve. And so, yeah, I thought I would do a check-in, see how I'm doing with my reading goals, see how my reading is just going overall. And then I also am doing a no-buy year. And so I thought I would do an update on how my no-buy year is going. And spoiler alert, Q2 was hard. So first up, I'm just going to go over some general reading stats for the year so far. I am recording this like part of the way through July, and I'm using the information coming from Storygraph, and I did not realize this ahead of time, but I can't adjust like the range for the stats. Like you can just look at years at a time. So I can look at the entirety of 2022, or I can go back to a previous year, but I can't adjust the date range, at least not in like the free version. Like I don't know how the plus version works. So the stats are for basically the date of like July 21st. But that's fine. I mean, really, it doesn't matter. These are just general stats. So I've read 37 books so far this year, which have come to a total of 13,329 pages, which is fantastic in my opinion. I don't have like an official reading goal, but like I basically set my Goodreads goal for 50 books in a year as sort of like a pacer for the year. So as long as I'm reading about a book or two a week, I am happy. My mood for the year hasn't changed significantly. There are a couple of more moods that have been added into the reading mix, but for the most part, the majority of the books that I read are emotional, reflective, and mysterious. That has stayed the same since Q1, as well as the pace of the books. Majority are medium pace books, which again stay standard. Page numbers, again, majority are within the 300 to 500 page mark, which again is pretty standard for me. I think the 500 plus slice has gone up slightly, and that is probably just because of the Chunky Chapter Book Club, which is where we try to read books that are over 500 pages. In terms of fiction to nonfiction, I went back and rewatched my video from the first quarter, and one of the things I specifically say is when I'm paying attention to my fiction to nonfiction ratio, I can get it above 25%, or I'm usually in the 20 to 25% range. Q2, I did not pay attention at all to the genres of the books that I was reading. Again, usually I try to pay attention to like my fiction to nonfiction. Like if I realize I've been reading a lot of fiction, I'll prioritize picking up a nonfiction. Did not do that at all in Q2. In fact, I honestly don't know if I read any nonfiction in Q2, but yeah, this number has dropped from 25% to 14%. So I think that's going to be something I'm going to try to focus on in Q3 a little bit. In terms of genres, I feel like my genres for this half now feel more like the genres that I would think would show up as my top genres. I gave this disclaimer again in the Q1 video, and I'll give it again here. There are a couple of things that Storygraph marks as genres that I don't consider genres, specifically things like LGBTQIA+ and race. I don't consider those genres of books, as then they mark like the age range as genres, which really is like a pet peeve of mine. Like YA is not a genre, middle grade is not a genre. Those are the targeted age groups. But anyways, ignoring those, my top genres so far this year are literary fiction, which makes sense, historical and contemporary. So yeah, that's what I would expect. So my reading goals for Q2 were basically focused on two things. The first one has to do with my physical TBR. I started off the year trying to reach TBR 0 or 0 TBR. So basically no unread books that I owned, but I realized like that wasn't really realistic for me in my life. And I realized over the course of the year so far that what I really wanted to aim for was basically not to have books sitting on my physical TBR for a really long time. And so my goal became to make sure that I didn't have an unread book sitting on my physical TBR for more than a year. I mentioned this again in my last video, but I use this website/phone app called Libib. I highly recommend it. It's really fantastic if you want a way to digitally catalog your own personal library. It's completely free. This is not sponsored, etc., etc. But basically, like they have like the date that you added a book to your library. And so every time I get a new book, I scan it in. And so I have them categorized by months now. The oldest books on my physical TBR are from September of 2021. And I only have 2 books from September and then 4 books from November. So I have a total of 6 books from 2021 left on my physical TBR, which is honestly fantastic. Like, I have known for a little bit now that I'm going to be going on a vacation in August. And so I'm like, I'm going to buy books on vacation. I'm not going to go as crazy as I went in Portland, but I will be buying books. And so my goal was actually to get through all of my September books before I go on my vacation in August, which I always thought was like doable, but it was a little bit of a stretch goal. But now I only have 2 books left to read before August, or before the trip in August, I should say. And I'm currently reading one of them, and the other one is a graphic novel or a graphic memoir. And I'm very, very likely going to hit that. And it's very likely that I'll finish all of my November books before the end of the year. My current like unread book number is higher than I would want because I was gifted, my partner bought me this Zora Neale Hurston box set, which is amazing and beautiful. But the thing is that I've only read one of the books, Their Eyes Were Watching God, and there are 10 books in there total. So like my unread book number is currently over 30, which isn't great. Personally, I feel like 20 is like a good number for me. Like the overall goal is basically like I want the acquisitions of unread books that I purchase to be slower than the amount that I'm reading. So like things just don't linger for a really long time because I think that that's really the problem. And I think right now I have it at a pretty good pace where sometimes I'm reading a lot of books from the library, but that's okay. And sometimes I'm reading the newer books that I've acquired, and that's okay because again, I only have 6 books from last year that I've purchased that I haven't read yet, which is great. And then my other goal has to do with comics and graphic novels, which I will just forever be struggling with. My goal was to read 1 per month, which I haven't done. I read 1 in June, and then I did read 1 in July, and I do have like 1 more graphic memoir, like I mentioned, sitting on my physical TBR. So right now, my total that I've read like through July is only at 3, which is not great. And so like my goal was to read 1 per month and do that, read 1 in the quarter. And so I think I'm just gonna now say like 1 a month is gonna be like my reach goal, honestly. Like I wanted to get to 10 to 12 by the end of the year, but realistically, probably not going to happen. Although I did, the one that I read in July, which I'm not going to spoil that, I really enjoyed, and I think I'm going to get the other 2 volumes from the library, so who knows? I'm doing a terrible job at this, but I think I'm going to just keep it as a goal so that way I'm focusing on it, or I have it as like something to pay attention to, because I feel like if I remove it as a goal, I'm going to just stop reading comics altogether. I don't know what a realistic goal for this is anymore, but I'm going to just keep it at 1 a month with the hopes of reading like 3 more over the next quarter. All right, and then the final portion of this video has to do with my no-buy year. So I will link up above my like no-buy video from the beginning of the year where I talk all about it and things like that and like sort of what's included and what's not. And I'm specifically going to talk about quarter 2 because again, I already talked about the things that I purchased in quarter 1, which I think I did a good job with, you know, keeping it relatively minimal. Quarter 2 has been more of a struggle, and this comes with little bits of like life update things. For the most part, I didn't do terribly. Like, I feel like I did better than I thought I did. Like, when I went through my purchases that were like not justified in my opinion, or like wants basically more than needs, it wasn't as bad as I thought, but it's definitely more money than I wanted to spend. So first up with books, I've been slightly more lenient with buying books. One thing that I've been doing is that for the Chunky Chapter Book Club, I'm often buying the books that we're reading for the book club, which makes sense. Like I could get them from the library, but I kind of like having them. It's almost like a keepsake now from the book club and things like that. And so I purchased Jade War this year. I also purchased The Bread the Devil Need. I did a whole reading vlog based on reading through the Women's Prize shortlist, and I'll link that up above in case you're interested. And like the only book that I could not get from the library was The Bread the Devil Need, and so I ended up just buying a copy of it because I was like, I would like to finish it for the reading vlog, and I was like, that's fine. And then the other book that I purchased was Sorry Not Sorry, which I was at Barnes & Noble specifically to get Jade War, and I was there with 2 friends, and they saw this book and they were like, what if we did a book club together? And so I was just like, yeah, sure, why not? So we all bought the same book. Only, I think 2 of the 4 of us have read it, and I haven't even read it yet. So we'll see how that goes. I've also heard pretty mediocre things about that book, unfortunately. So I did buy that book with my friends, but again, I don't really have regrets about that. The things that I also bought that I don't have regrets about is one, I bought a new planner. I had been using a specific type of planner, and there was just like significant increases in like my disorganization and my anxiety this year for reasons that I will get to in a second. And I was like, you know what? I feel like this planner isn't helping me or actually organize things. It was partially due to like the fact that it was a bigger planner, like literally like physically bigger. And so I would never like keep it open on my desk like I used to with other planners because it was just so large. It took up so much space. And so therefore I wasn't utilizing it as much. And so I was falling into old habits of just trying to rely on my own brain rather than writing things down. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to buy a new planner because I feel like this is just going to help my brain space. And it has. So I bought this from Mossery. I've purchased a Mossery planner in the past and I really enjoyed them. I think they were actually the ones that I were using before the pandemic happened and when I stopped using planners, because why do you need a planner when the world is ending? Or at least when you never leave your house. Like, really, you don't need a planner at that point. So yes, I went back to the Mossery planner. I've been really enjoying this. And then I also purchased a lanyard. So I ended up going back into the office in April. So that was a big life event in Q2. And so now I have like a hybrid work situation again. And we have lanyards now with like photo IDs. And I hated the lanyard I got from work. Like my ID kept popping off. Anyways, I just ended up buying my own that I knew would be like higher quality. At least specifically has like a metal like carabiner style clip to it. So that way it's a little bit more sturdy. So I'm very happy with that purchase as well. And then I've also purchased some clothes over the past couple of months. One I talked about, I think in a previous video, where I had a wedding in April and I knew I either needed to buy a new outfit, like a dress or something like that, because I had shoes to go with an American dress, or I needed to borrow an Indian outfit and buy new shoes for that. So I decided to do an Indian outfit and just buy new shoes, which again, I'm fine with because I can rewear those shoes when I have other events with Indian outfits. I bought some socks from Old Navy, specifically like workout socks that have grips on them. So another big thing is I started doing Pilates, which I've been really enjoying, but I do like reformer Pilates and you need like gripper socks, like the socks with the little gripper things on the bottom. And so Old Navy has them and they're relatively cheap. I think they're like $6 for a pair or two pairs. This is pretty low investment when it comes to the workout stuff. I did buy a couple of dresses from Shein. I'm not happy about these purchases. This is probably like my biggest regret. Basically, one of my friends was having a 30th birthday party and she's like, if you come to my party, you have to dress up. And so it was 90s themed. And so you had to dress up like your favorite like 90s character or just like a 90s character in general. I hate costume parties, but I was like, you know, I really like this friend. I'm willing to make it work. So I racked my brain for like a relatively simple but fun idea. And so I was like, I know what I'll do. I'll be Lisa Simpson. Because then I can just buy an orange dress and then I can buy some like fake pearls and be on my merry way. I even bought like a toy saxophone to like carry around like a tiny one. First, I bought a strapless dress from Shein. But like the thing is I couldn't figure out what my size was going to be. So I bought the wrong size. And then I was just feeling really self-conscious about my body and the way it looked in this dress. So I was just like, I'm just going to buy another dress. So I bought another dress from Shein that I liked a little bit more that wasn't strapless because I just hate wearing strapless stuff. And then I also bought a pair of like orange shoes from Shein to like be in like full Lisa gear as much as possible. And then the worst part is that I didn't even end up going to the party because my sister and my niece, who I live with, ended up getting COVID and I tested negative the entire time. I never had symptoms or anything like that, but I was just so like nervous about going to the party when I could have potentially been exposed. Like it was within the 5-day period of being exposed and stuff like that. And I was just like so like nervous about being a potential carrier and going to a bar, like a relatively like a private room in a bar and stuff like that, where like everyone would have their masks off because they're drinking and eating and all this stuff. And like I just felt like I wasn't going to enjoy myself. So I didn't end up going to the party just to be sure that I didn't accidentally, you know, spread this disease. And so I feel like I just wasted all my money, which is very unfortunate. And then the final thing is that I ended up buying some clothes from TJ Maxx. I got engaged in Q2. That's a big life event. If you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen this already. But yeah, I got engaged. And so one of the things that we are doing, or we already did as of this recording, is that we took pictures for our engagement photos. And so I was freaking out about that. And so I ended up buying some new clothes because I was just like, I don't know what to wear. We had very specific places that we ended up shooting, and they each had like their own vibe and all this stuff. And so I bought a top and a dress from TJ Maxx that I ended up wearing for the shoot, which I actually am really happy about. Like, I've been wanting new clothes anyways, and I really like the top and I really like the dress. I feel like they're both really cute, and they're things I'm going to wear over again. So honestly, like those purchases I'm really happy with. And yeah, now that I'm engaged, I currently have big things I'm saving for. I like alluded to this in my no buy, where I was like, I have things that are happening in my life, and it's basically because I kind of knew I was going to get engaged at some point this year. We were already planning to get married next year, but I didn't say it out loud because, it's not official yet. Things could always happen. And I was like, even if I didn't get engaged, I wanted to be saving money to eventually like buy my own place and things like that. And so that was kind of the purpose behind the no buy. And so now that like we officially have things rolling, I kind of know how much money I need to be saving. But also my partner and I have decided that we're going to try really hard to buy as opposed to renting at first. And so we'll see how those things roll out. And so now I'm like especially particular about how I'm spending my money. So I think July will go better. Like, I did buy, again, some things that are like not necessary, but I think for the most part I've been pretty good because now I have like these two specific goals that I'm trying to save for, and it makes me really consider like whether or not the way I'm using my money is how I want to be using my money. There's definitely like different expenditures that have come into play. Like, again, I'm taking Pilates now, and that's not cheap, but also I consider that a worthwhile like way to spend my money because health is important, and it's like a thing that I'm actually enjoying doing, and it's a thing that I'm actually consistently doing, which it's been a while since I've had something like that and all that stuff. So yeah, I feel like for the most part, like I've spent more in Q2, or I was struggling a lot. Like, there's definitely points, I will admit, where I bought clothes and then I was just like, I don't need this. And so I went and returned them. I also bought a lot of clothes for the engagement pictures. There's like one more dress that will come up in Q2. But I bought genuinely like, I think 5 different dresses. And then I just returned all of them but one that I wore. So yeah, it's been kind of interesting, but I feel like for the most part, I've been doing a good job keeping my spending to a minimum. So really, I'm not doing a no buy. I'm basically doing a low buy year. But yeah, I think basically like if I have like specific goals in mind that I'm trying to reach for, it's easier for me to not spend money because then I'm just like, no, I want this other thing more than I want this current thing. So like I feel like everything that I've been purchasing has been things I've like really thought about. Like I'm really like there's so many things I wanted to buy. Like I really want a pair of shorts. I bought one pair of shorts. Oh, that's actually another thing I bought from Old Navy is a pair of shorts. I forgot about that. But again, they were on sale and I literally did not own a single pair of shorts that fit me. And I was like, it's summer and we're going through some heat waves here, so I need a pair of shorts that are not just like basketball shorts that I can wear in public. Like things like that where I'm just like, do I 1000% need it? No, but it's also like kind of justified. Like it's not the worst thing to be spending money on. And so I feel like I haven't been like super frivolous and things like that. It also helps that everything is really expensive right now. And so it extra incentivized me to be like, do I actually want to spend all this money on this thing? Probably not. So yeah, that's my mid-year check-in with my reading stats and reading goals and personal goals, and as well as some life updates, I guess. I didn't mean to do all those updates, but there we are. Well, let me know down in the comments below how your year has been going, whether it's your reading year or just in general. What are some of the goals that you're trying to achieve and how are they going and things like that. Or if you have any questions about anything I talked about here today, I know I like kind of very quickly went through some things. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave that down in the comments section as well. So yeah, that's all I have for now, and thanks for watching.